Thank you. Welcome to the ultimate experience. You know what the ultimate experience is, right? The ultimate experience is you experiencing you. For the people that can see 5, 10, 15 years into the future. For the people that created the room before they knew the room needed to be created. What's the vision that you're still looking to bring to life? And it is my belief that we are all adventurers in this room. If that is the case, then say yes. And so it is my chosen responsibility to ground you in this experience by providing you with the answer to a very important question. I'm here to provide you with the reason that you are here. Things are about to turn up. It's about to get hot in here, if it isn't already hot. So, what I would like to do is I would like for a few people to share your reason. Who's bold enough to share your reason? Let's go. Oh, wow. Let's go with you first. What is your name?
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie. Let's give it up for Anne-Marie.
I am here to serve by breathing life into others. I serve through spiritual CPR. I bring people to life. I resuscitate the dreams and fire in others. I do this by being me, stepping in and stepping up to give permission to others to do the same. I am connected, intentional, and purpose-filled. I am living my best life, and I'm going to the top and bringing everyone with me.
Anne-Marie, thank you. Wow, I'm blown away. As long as you take me with you, we can make some magic happen. I do fit in trunks. It just may not look like it. Awesome. Thank you for that. Right here. What is your name, good sir?
My name is Eric.
Give it up for Eric.
Matt's got an extreme amount of faith to hand me a microphone. All right. I am here to create miracles for others, to serve and not to be served, to encourage others with specificity.
The way that you listen this weekend will determine what you get out of this weekend. So the speakers are going to do what they do. The people in the room are going to be who they be. And we can listen in very different ways. We can listen like this. Do I agree with this person? Do I not agree? Do I like this? Do I not? We can come from judgment. Or we can listen from a place where it doesn't matter what is said. It doesn't matter who's in the room, and there's some incredible people in this room, that we can look for the gold. We can choose right now to listen in a way that we will be different by the end of the weekend. Now, I'm going to make a request of you all. And again, one of the things I learned from Steve was if you make a big request, make a big promise. So my request is, listen to me and every single speaker on the stage and every single person in the room with your highest listening. Listen in a way that you wouldn't listen to anyone else. There'll be someone in your mind that if they were speaking right now, you would have a listening for them that you wouldn't have for anyone else in the world. It could be a parent, it could be a spiritual teacher, it could be a famous person. There'd be a way of listening. And you can think about that right now. Who could be here that you would listen so openly, so intently, without any judgment, just really looking for the gold? Think of an actual person. And then choose to listen to me and every single person here and every single person in the room as if they were that person. That's a very different way of listening. Now that's a big request. That's going to require some work on your end, but here's the promise. If you do that, the value from this weekend will be 100, 1,000 times more than if you just show up as your default way of being, your default listening. And the same is true for me. Hopefully one of the messages from this talk is, anything I've achieved, I know it's possible for every single person in this room. It's not like, oh, there's some special gene I've got, right? Or a special character thing I've been born with that makes, oh yeah, Kush can do this, or Steve can do this, or one of the other speakers can do this. It's not. The message of the ultimate coach is, if you want whatever you want, just be the person who creates that. And anyone can shift their state of being. Anyone. It's really that powerful. I'm testament to that. So now the next person is going to be my last acknowledgement, but I might get told off. I want to acknowledge my wife. She's hiding in the audience. I'm not going to point her out. But I will say genuinely that my wife is amazing, and one of the things that I've almost embarrassed to admit through my work with Steve has been really appreciating her and all that she does for me. And I can't be me and do what I do without her. I really can't. The investment I make, people go, wow, you're traveling to the States, you're working with Steve. That's as much her investment as it is mine. My wife has an incredible job in London. She manages a whole bunch of people. She's a senior person in her role. And so when I'm away, it's as much, if not more, of an investment from her than it is from me. And it would be remiss of me not to say that. And again, I would ask you, just don't hear this about me and my wife, hear this about you, because I know for so many of you, there are people in your life who help you be the best that you are, who support you. Certainly what I found is, when I appreciate someone who supports me, it always comes back. I have a saying, you can't outgive the universe. Try it. I dare you. It's no way. Every single person in this room has the potential to be their version of a global leader. Every single person. And what I found is when I speak to people, in their heart, everyone has some desire for something. Some vision, some crazy thing that they're like, oh yeah, I mean, I'd love to do this. Like, oh, I'd love to change the world in this way. Or if I was in charge of the world, I would do this, this, and this. Why not? So you can ask yourself right now, whatever that is for you, who would I need to be to actually create that? And I don't care what it is. You might want to change, and I'll give you some examples of things that people have told me. Oh, I want to change the finance industry. I had someone say that to me. Someone else is like, I want to end homelessness in the country. I want to change the whole mindset of ethical leadership. People have all these different ideas, and it's not like, oh yes, someone else is going to do that. It's you. If you've got that idea, it's you. Now here's the thing. If you ask yourself, who do I need to be in order to create that, and it doesn't happen, you still win. Because the real prize is the shift in your being. The real prize is the person you become in order to create what it is that you want to create. There's no downside to this. It doesn't really matter whether I end up being MG and changing the planet or not, and I will, but it doesn't matter. That's just a side effect. And the more I step into it, I'm winning right now. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect. A year ago, I didn't really work out too much. As you can tell, I work out now. And when I'm in the gym, I have this thing with the people I'm working out with about our language, because our language creates. And I'll hear people in the gym, and these are bigger people than me and have been working out for a lot longer, and they'll say, oh, this is hard. And I say, no, it's not. And it's hard, right? But I don't want to create that. My wife knows this. I wasn't planning on telling this story. But there's a buddy I've got in the gym. His name's Ivan, and he's big. He's a big dude, and he's fantastic physique. And every now and then, he trains with my personal trainer, and we train at the same time, and we work out together. Now, if you put us side by side, you would say clearly that guy is way stronger than this guy. That's what you'd say. And I know language creates. So when I'm working out with him, I'm busting his balls. All the time. So we're doing some exercise, and it's really hard. And he goes, oh man, that's hard. I go, not for me. And I've genuinely found it. I find like I have an extra 25%, 30% power when I change my language in real time working out. But that's not about the gym. That's everywhere in life. If I say business is hard, coaching is hard, creating clients is hard, being a parent is hard, I'm going to just create more of that. And I'm not saying, oh, it's just simple and easy. I mess up all the time. But I'm very kind with myself and forgive myself, which is a real important lesson that I've learned from my work with Steve. And I just keep moving forward and keep creating myself. I just keep coming back to that. We can all do that. That's not about me. Anyone in this room can do that. I said, I think yesterday or the day before, I had an idea that I should call this talk, Being is the Ultimate Barometer. Being is the ultimate barometer, because that's what it is. Being is not this woo-woo thing that we can't really grasp. It's really practical. So a few people ask me, hey, are you nervous? I'm not going to use that language to create that. Did I have a few butterflies in my stomach? Yeah, sure I did. But I'm not going to create that, because I don't want to be nervous. That's who I'm being. When you're here, you are all being something every single second. You can be loving, you can be kind, you can be generous, you can also be judgmental. You can also be skeptical. You can also be mean and gossipy. I've been all of those. I'm not going to lie. And I get to choose who I be this weekend, in life, every single day. It's the ultimate barometer. I can't bullshit being. No one can.
Something like that. Woo! Let's go! It's funny because I heard Ankush start talking, and I was like, oh man, this dude's basically stolen everything I was preparing. But then I remembered, like, I didn't fully prepare. And what I mean by that is that I wanted to be in a moment, I wanted to feel you guys in the room. And I really wanted to speak from my heart today. And so I'm just, if you guys will give me permission just to let it flow and just be with me on this journey, and I promise you, you'll get something from it. Yeah? And I remember individuals telling me, you can be like this, You can have what you want. You can get here. This is how I experienced it. And deep down inside, there was a separation for me. There was a separation. I was like, okay. I didn't believe it because I always, no matter how much I told myself, I wouldn't put them on a pedestal or, but they're the speakers. I just didn't believe in myself that, but they haven't gone through, it must have been easy for them, right? So I thought I had this being thing mastered. I had my document. I am freedom. And I'm not saying that to diminish the power in it, but just hopefully you get where I'm coming from. I am unedited perfection. And if I was truly being that, surely the thought of being up here and sharing my heart with you guys wouldn't hurt. Surely. It was the hardest thing. In fact, even up to yesterday, I was sick to the stomach. And I said to my wife, I said, you know what, honey? I'm going to tell Matt I'm not doing it. Can't do it. And I'm lying. We were supposed to come to the meet up at the F1 place. And I was tired and my stomach was hurting. And I had so much nerves. And I said, and in my head, I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. And I really want you to connect with, like, as a possibility that sometimes that's part of the journey. Sometimes, no matter how much you sit down and you create, you still have to take action and actually do the thing, right? But it was hard. I didn't want to do it. I was scared. Can you hear that? I was scared. Scared. I was nearly, in fact, I probably cried a few times. And the biggest thing that shocked me, and this is why I'm sharing this bit, I shared with my wife. I was in the bed. I was saying, honey, this is how I feel. And it always surprises me. She goes, but I would never know that. Because it just seems like you're never bothered. And it's not true. It's not true. What I realized when I was playing back Steve in my head, and that idea of if you got it, can you hear that? If I'm acknowledging you, if Kush is acknowledging Steve, who we acknowledging me? And what I experienced in that moment on the train when I was coming up was if you can suspend logic for a minute, if you can trust with your heart and your soul and feel into the possibility of that, just being that alone would have you experience the world differently. Because as I was on the train and I was writing, and I was thinking about this acknowledgement piece, and is it possible? And just thinking into the possibility and then being that in that moment, I realized there was nothing ever to be afraid of to be on this stage. There is nothing ever to be afraid of as it relates to you stepping into your goals and your dreams. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you're going to be free from fear while you're doing it. I think that's the misconception some of us get. We think that, in order to do it, I've got to pluck it. I've got to have it all figured out, and then I've got to step into it. No. That's part of the journey, is being with the fear. There is no courage in the absence of fear. None. And nobody is on another level. And as a possibility, when what I saw and what I felt and what I experienced is that when you can feel into that, you're amazing. I went to the speaker's dinner tonight. I was a mess. Last night, see? Still a mess. Went to the speaker's dinner, and there was an energy, there was an essence, there was a love. And everybody that I was embracing and hugging and loving, I was loving myself and embracing and experiencing that for myself. Everybody that I was seeing being acknowledged, I was experiencing that acknowledgement. And I realized most of our pain, most of our struggles come from this idea that we create, that we are separate. So as a possibility, what I realized was that we create the disconnect. That if Lindsay's winning, you're winning. If I'm winning, you're winning. And if you could just suspend logic for a moment and step into that as a possibility for this weekend, I assure you that if you did attend London and you was one of the ones that said to me, I didn't like that speaker, that's not going to exist anymore. And you will see things that you never saw before, and you will feel things you never felt before. And that's my invitation to everyone. Yes, I'm
Did you know you already have a document? I kid you not, you have a document.
I don't know who that was.
And that document, we call it your default document. And it sounds like I feel lousy today. It sounds like I can't memorize things. It sounds like I always do my best and it always goes to hell. It sounds like whatever you say and however you experience life, that creation is a result of your default document. The document that was already there, that perhaps it was installed, perhaps it was a response to trauma. It doesn't really matter how it was created. Your life as it is now, your life as it was in the past, was a result of your living from and through this default document.
So as we look at the declarations and the documents that we declare, we do declare, the word declaration, it's me, the word declaration, when I think of it, I'm standing on the top of a mountaintop and I'm shouting it into the world. And it's creative. When we declare something to be true, it's creative. And if we're running from a declaration that is not taking us to where we want to go, and I'm not going to make it wrong, we're just going to get a certain amount of results, a certain type of result. So if we want to live a created life, if we want to have some agency over what we create, we must have some agency over creating who we are. So what Dave described was something we term as non-useful thinking. And I love that term, because again, it's not making it wrong. There's no right or wrong here. I want us to live in a world for the next 2 days where there is no right or wrong. Things just are. And being okay with things just are. Creating from this space of nothing. So, can I have a slide up? Can we have slide number 1? So, I made this little, did it in Canva. I made this little thing for you. Because what we're dealing with every day are the outcomes. And we tend to just look at outcomes. But when we ask the question, what creates those outcomes, and we go upstream a little bit, we're going to find that the actions are creating our outcomes. So what's creating our actions? Our thoughts are creating our actions. And that's where a lot of personal development kind of stops. Change your thoughts. Stop thinking like that. Do something different. All in the actions and thoughts bit. And I've been in personal development for a really, really long time, and that's where I got stuck, and I always questioned, there's no sustainability in this. Why is it that I can't keep this going? And then I found being. Because who you are being is going to dictate what your thinking is. Your thinking is going to dictate your actions. And your actions are going to dictate your outcomes. Can you hear that? Does that land? And this is why being is the place we have to work to get sustainable personal development. Otherwise, if we just stay in the thoughts and actions, we're going to drift back to that default legacy way of being. So I'd like to tell you a little story. Can I have the second slide? Created this in Canva too. I want to tell you a story about a dog. I want you to imagine you're at home, you're in your office, you're somewhere, and you can hear this dog barking. Now, you can't know anything really about that dog just from its bark. You might be able to tell the size of the dog, whether it's a big booming bark or a little yappy bark. You might be able to tell a little bit about the temperament that that dog is in at the time. But if you want to find out what's going on with that dog, what's making it bark, you're going to have to go and find the dog. Only when you find the dog can you find out what's going on for that dog that's creating the bark. Now, we could yell out the window, "Shut up!" and it may stop for a moment. But because we haven't affected what's going on with the dog, it will continue to bark. So I want you to start thinking of your non-useful thinking as the barking dog within you. So when you think back to the previous slide, and you know the previous slide, but don't go there, I think they can remember it. The dog is the being. So that dog might be tied up, that dog might be frustrated, it might be starving, it's suffering in some way. So it's barking to let you know there's something going on. So when we go and find the dog, what do? We don't go and kick the dog. That's what we're doing when we're judging ourselves. We're kicking the dog. We're shouting at the dog. We're in argument with the dog. We're trying to force it to stop barking. We don't do that. Now, there are loads of dogs out there that aren't barking. There's loads of dogs that are playing in the park, lying on sofas, having their bellies rubbed. We don't need to worry about those dogs. Those are all the things you've got in you innately. That's the great stuff. It's the barking dogs we want to look at. We want to look at this non-useful thinking that's creating from our being through to our outcomes. So we go with kindness to the dog. We go with forgiveness to the dog. We feed the dog, we untie the dog, we do whatever it is that the dog needs to be liberated from that's causing the bark. And have the next slide. And the same process happens again. We now have a different state of being, creating different thoughts, giving us different actions, creating whole new outcomes. And that too will go around. And every now and again, that legacy way of being will come back and the dog will start barking again. And our only job is to go and be kind to that dog. That's all we have to do. Go and be kind and create ourselves differently in that moment.
The beauty of this is that as humans, we have a self-reinforcing system. Our minds, our thoughts, they reinforce that which we believe. And that which we believe, our document, be it default or created, intentional and conscious, or conscious, it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to be self-reinforced. So it is as easy to be, I am loving kindness, as it is to be, I'm a big fat son of a gun, or whatever your thought is. The reinforcing mechanism is automatic once you have established it as a declaration. Now, it's not just declaring it, right? A declaration without clearing the way of what Steve calls dog poop, you know, the non-useful thinking, is an affirmation. And, you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with affirmations. And affirmations will not give you the self-reinforcing system that Fiona shows here.
So what we're going to invite you to do today, now, You will all have some non-useful thinking, even those that have created great documents and lived by them. There will still be some barking dogs that show up every now and again. And in my experience, the dog barks a lot less now than it did, certainly 2 years ago. But there's still some. There's still some judgments. And I want to invite you to think of 3 of your most common non-useful thinkings and write them down. In the past, I've had a lot of thinking about my weight. It's a dodgy one for the ladies of a certain age. I've had a lot of thinking about my capacity to earn money. I've had a lot of thinking about who I am in relation to my beautiful 95-year-old mother who drives me up the stick, not because she's doing anything wrong, but because she's 95 and she can't do the things that she used to be able to do. And if you've got children, you're going to have some thinking there too. Why are they like they are? Why don't they do better at school? We've all got stuff, non-useful thinking.
It might be about your spouse. It might be about the drivers on the road. It might be about the taxation system or the healthcare system or systems in general. It might be about me. It might be about Steve. It might be about Matt Evans. I hope not. What? Nothing. It's all good. Whatever your non-useful thinking is, identify those 3, and those are the things you're going to take a look at tonight, yeah?
Yeah. So, Matt, I'd like you to play a video, and I'd like to thank Ankush for introducing this video to me, and I want you to watch, it's a short video, I want you to watch this beautiful human being and how she speaks to herself. Just by way of demonstration of what innocence really looks like. It's very useful to me when I think of how I judge myself, is to see myself as a child and then see my adult self next to me saying the things, "You're fat, you're not enough," and seeing my innocence, and that's like, wow, why would I do that? We all have that innocence within us. We are all innocent. All the time. It's always in us. Is that right?
You are equipped with the greatest technology this universe has ever known. 85 billion neurons, 86 billion glial cells, 2.5 petabytes of information that you can store in your brain. I'm not talking about somebody else in this room. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. That means you, incredible you, are equipped with everything you need to be anything you can imagine. That's one thing. There's another thing. You are in a universe where everything is possible. Margaret Drabble says that when nothing is sure, everything is possible. Do you believe that? That's 2 things. Number 3, you are surrounded by everything you would need to create anything you can imagine. All the raw materials, all the resources, materials, opportunities, people are already here. It's up to you to transform them, and you're equipped to be able to transform them. Do you believe that? Yeah. I don't remember much about that conversation, but I remember one thing. I asked him a question. I said, "Can I ask you something?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Can you?" And he said, "Yes." Before I could finish, I said, how can you say yes if you don't know what I'm going to ask?" And he said, "There's nothing you can ask me that's bigger than me. I can do anything." That is every one of you in this room. Do you hear that? That is you. There is nothing you can't do. The only thing that can get in the way is your story. When you automate that, you automate almost everything you do in your life. 95% of your thoughts are automated. You have 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% are automated. Only 5% are original, and most of those are negative. What are you saying about yourself? What stories are you repeating? 40% of your actions are automated, habituated. That's a lot. So the first step is to be gently aware and wake up to that you're doing that. And why do I say gentle awareness? It's because we are so hard on ourselves about what we have going on in here. We think we are something and we judge ourselves and we justify ourselves for being that. Anytime you're in judgment or justification, you shut down learning. You can't grow. So your first step is to recognize that you have stuff going on that's automated, and then when you recognize that, to be really gentle and compassionate with yourself about what's going on. It's okay that you're not okay. Next, you need to accept and acknowledge what is. Acceptance isn't resignation, it's simply an acknowledgement of it is what it is and it was what it was. Whatever happened in your life is just an event until you make it mean something. The moment you make it mean something, then it becomes something, and then it controls your life, and that becomes your perception. You have this story going on, and this story that you have going on isn't completely yours. It might be from your family or their family. It might be from your culture, your society. It might be from your own experiences. Whatever that story is becomes your perception. And that perception is what you speak to the world, and before you have a chance to speak it to the world, you have a chance to predict it. Think about that word, prediction. I'm going to predict my future. Before I speak it, I'm going to speak it in my mind, is what that means. Can you hear that? And then you speak it, you act on it, you get results, but you don't see the results the way they are, you see the results the way you are. That matters. So who's doing the viewing? Who's doing the doing? It's you. We talk about being as though it's this cliche, this concept. Hey, you guys be something, right? Lindsay, you know this. Being isn't something you do. Being is something you are, and you are already that. Like I said, there's no becoming a giant. You are already the giant. There's unbecoming everything that makes you feel small. That's what we're doing. When you strip away everything, you're not left with nothing. You're left with everything. So for you, you might have these things that have happened in your life. Traumas, neglect, abuse, all these mishappenings, the things that didn't go the way you thought. They didn't measure up to your own ideals. Lisa Feldman Barrett says that you feel depression when you're not living up to your own ideals, and you feel anxiety when you feel like you're not measuring up to the ideals you think others have for you. And here's the paradox. All of the ideals are your own. You can't know what somebody else is thinking unless you project your own thinking on what you think they're thinking. How ridiculous is that? And so you create your suffering. When you can take yourself, elevate yourself to a degree to be empowered, and not completely empowered, not perfect, but you can be empowered enough, then you can start to reach beyond what is into the what can be. You're surrounded by uncertainty. You're surrounded by abundance. Those are beautiful blessings. Now you can create a vision. Here's the paradox of a vision. The moment you set a vision, now you've created a new ideal, and now you've created a new way to create suffering. Right? Because now you're not measuring up to what you think you should be. So be gentle with yourself around that. All it was an idea. If it never came to be, would that be okay? Yeah. You're bringing miracles into this world. You're designed to transform what is into what can be, and you can only do it in your own way. You are the unique fingerprint that gets to transform it. Nobody else gets to do that. I did it in a way called the Giants and the Smalls. Matt Evans did it in a way called this event right here. They're all creations, and they're all unique. And you have your own version, and we can't experience it until you show up. If we look at the definition of failure and success, a failure is a negative yield from your efforts, and a success is a positive yield from your efforts. That's all it is. Notice my wording here, that a negative yield and a positive yield are subjective. You make up the definition. There is no objective definition of what those words mean. So you decide that's a negative yield, that's a positive yield. I'm happy, I'm not happy. I'm satisfied, I'm not satisfied. Your perception is everything. This is why we get back into the inner world of giving ourselves some grace for whatever's going on in here. Because there's a lot that goes on in here, right? And we all have it. I've been doing this work a long, long time. And there's sometimes I wonder if I can even do it. Accept your life as it is. It is what it is, and no matter what you say, your life is what it is, and it was what it was. Convince me otherwise. There's no chance. Your life is what it is, and it was what it was, and in no way is that a statement of resignation. Can you hear that? You are not a resignation of your experiences. Your life was what it was, it is what it is. Now express gratitude. What's positive about what was? What's positive about what is? Gratitude is the foundation of all abundance. When you start to see gratitude in the world, you start to see all the abundance that surrounds you. And when you can see that abundance that surrounds you, you start to see possibility in the uncertainty. Who loves uncertainty? Raise your hand. That's impressive. That's impressive. How many of you are willing to let yourselves be terrible at something and look messy? Yeah, I'm seeing some, dude, I love this audience. I don't have to convince you guys. So, this is for you. This entire event is yours. Our goal, our mission, our vision is for you to see that you are already greatness, that you are already a giant, that everything you need to create anything you can imagine is already there. So it's up to you to create it. Every one of us is trying to convince you of that, from Sanyika to Ankush to Dominic. And I love this man. Like, I look up to him. It's just because he's taller than me. you and Sanyika. These guys are giants. And Kush, you're a giant as well. When we use that term, it's not a physical thing. It's not about achievements. Let me create a distinction between accomplishments and achievements. An achievement is something that is complete and finished. An accomplishment is the pathway that got you there. We're about accomplishments. Being a giant isn't about achievements. It's about the pathways that you create as you step into your greatness. And every one of you.
Because however we got here today, and many have thought about our physical journey, there's also been a set of experiences that have led us to who we think we are today, as Nick alluded to earlier, right? And some of them are great, joyful experiences that we celebrate and we want to replicate. Anyone had any of those? No joy? No joy in the room. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm going to have to get Hosier back now if there's no joy. And what about the moments that have brought us to our knees? Those moments of deep sadness, of loss of expectation, physical loss. Because that's also part of what's brought us here today, isn't it? To the who we are, or the who we think we are. Yeah? Because as Nick said, I want to talk about leadership. And sometimes when you hear there's somebody talking about leadership, you might want to say, oh, this is the corporate chick. I'm going to have a little snooze. Might be an expensive one, I'm just saying. But if you come with me, I'm going to share two stories that actually, it was only in the getting ready for this event that I realized how significant one particular moment was when I was 18 years of age, and how it actually defined my personal philosophy around leadership. And I promise, if you stay with me, you'll hear and feel something to surrender into, and you will be on your feet. Is that okay? Yes. After 30 minutes, right? We got you. Because what happened that night was a young woman who you may never have heard of took a stand for something. And if we go back to the Archimedes quote, give me a lever and a place to stand, and I will change the world. What do most people talk about? Levers. How am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? How is it all going to come together? 35-year-old woman. She was a producer in the national broadcaster. She had started out her professional career wanting to be an actor, But she discovered that she was more at home in herself behind the camera than in front. Is there anyone here who can identify with that? I'm more comfortable behind the camera, behind the scenes, not being out in front. Yeah, right? And in fact, I'm going to go a step further about why I love this woman. When she was originally asked by RTE to become the executive producer for the Eurovision, she really didn't like the Eurovision. For some people, this would have been the job of a lifetime. For her, it was, I don't really like Eurovision. I don't know, do I want to do it? And so the second thing I learned from Moya Doherty, we'll see a photograph of her here, a woman, again, I have never met, but has had such a profound impact on my life, was that she was willing to let go of her likes and her dislikes and her preferences and take stand for the opportunity she was given. Because when she decided to take a stand, you know where she stood? She stood in a possibility that Irish dancing could be set free of the ringlets and the heavy green costumes, and it could be elevated to a modern theatrical experience. And that is where she stood. And every time she spoke to anyone, as she assembled her team around her, she spoke her vision, that this interval, the time when we normally stretch our legs, think about coffee, and think, God, it's very long. Now, when are we going to get a break? Anyone? No. She decided it was an opportunity for change. Not because... So my third lesson from Moya Doherty, which again, I've never met her, but she has guided my life. So when you take a powerful place to stand, it not just elevates you. It doesn't just deliver the product. It elevates everyone with whom it touches. Every person involved in the production. And there have been a multitude. In fact, I think there's been 64 marriages, 194 river dance babies in the 30 years since. And there's been a career path for dancers to see their craft elevated, almost like a Russian ballet. And to have an outlet for their creativity, their skills, their talent, which was previously simply unavailable, maybe because it was unthought of. Great visions can often be world domination. They can start that way, but they don't have to. A great vision can be to create a really meaningful impact in our world, in our organization, in our teams, in a meeting. Or a great vision can be, how do I make best maximum impact of a 7-minute interval act? It's not even the star of the show. To such an extent that 30 years later, the person who heard it and didn't even see it can tell you exactly where they were and what they were doing when your vision came to life. So my question for you is, of course, who do you need to be the leader in your lives? And do you dare, when hundreds of years of tradition may be stacked up against you, or generations might not even have thought of what you're trying to propose, to dare to do it anyway? Or in a world where everyone walks hands by their side, do you dare to say, here I am? Because you see, when I realized that this was the talk I was going to give, I only saw the end of it. And I thought, I cannot talk about this beautiful piece of music and talk about head, heart, hands and feet and not give you an opportunity to fully experience this. So, now for the hands and feet part. Okay, now, we are almost 300 people in a space. So here's a little bit of guidance for how we do this, right? So I want you to sit still in your chair, your hands on your feet on the floor, your hands on your legs, preferably your own. So you never know what's happening. And before we start the music, don't start it just yet. Thank you. We can just, yeah, thank you. We're all dying to do this now, I know that. Right? But we're a lot of people and we've got to be safe. Okay? So, what I want you to do is I want you to deeply connect now. Before we move a muscle, I want you to deeply connect to whatever your reason for being here, as Sanika invited us to earlier. Or what your vision is for your life. Or whatever kind of resonates more, that we can use this beautiful music now, and we're going to go into a 3-minute piece of it. And we're going to do this in 3 phases. In the first, you're going to hear this beautiful soprano. And I just invite you to just let the words in. And then you'll come into a melody, which is when Jean Butler is dancing the jig. And you can experience this exactly as I experienced it in those back 30 years ago. Just let it really into your heart. And then there'll come a moment, and you will know the moment when it arrives, when you'll hear the drums and the tempo uphold. And I invite you at that moment to dance, to form a line. Let's just do it organically and naturally where it arises. Having somebody either side of you, and when you dance, and don't worry about the steps, you do you. You dance like your vision depends upon it. You dance like you're shaking out the things that might get in your way. Right? You're allowed to dance. And you may move your arms. We're not doing traditional style. Yeah? Ready? Okay. And if you'd like to stand while we do the whole thing, that's fine. Do you. So we'll start nice and quiet, inward, and let this be a really beautiful love song to what you want to be in your life. Thank you, Matt. Ben, yeah.
My cry and my hunger in search for you. Taste my breath on the wind. See the sky as it mirrors my colors, hints and whispers begin. I am waiting to nourish you, cherish you. I am pulsing the blood in your veins. Feel the magic and power of surrender to my shine.
Thank you. Now that was a feeling. So, the first thing I'd like to say, I'm the third woman on the stage, and there is a big part of me that feels incredibly proud for my daughters, to show them what is possible when you love truthfully as a woman. And the love of a woman is so important for men. So togetherness is why I stand here. Love has to be present for anything to be felt. I would love to stand here and say that togetherness is why we are all here. There was a toy store in the UK, big toy store called Toys R Us. In the States or other, just the really grand toy stores, toy shops. So I take in my non-verbal child, Ronnie, my middle son, and of course, he used to just play fanatically with cars, and he would just line them up and just do this for ages. So we went in to buy a little car. Has anybody taken a child in a toy store with the intention to get a little toy? You never get a little toy. So we're going along, and he sees the biggest Tonka truck you've ever seen. And he's, and you're like, oh my God, no. Okay, well look, keep looking. It's £50. I do not want to pay £50 for a Tonka truck. So we try and divert him. Have you ever tried to divert a child who sees a big, red, shiny 50-quid truck? It's not happening. Parents are looking. I know what's going to come next, and it gets louder, and I'm like, get the truck down. We'll take it to the till. I'll divert him when we get home. At least we'll be away from the judgment of other parents. Have you ever been that parent looking at that whinging child going, and you're like, do something. And you're like, I know. Please stop looking. So we take the truck home. The plan was, when he gets in, you get his other toys. I will put the Tonka truck back in the boot of the car. I'll take it back. Have you ever been with your partner where you have a plan and it goes to shit? That's what happened. I come in the house after taking everything from the car, and the box is ripped open and the child's halfway in the box. He's in it. I'm like, we had a plan. He's like, I know, I'm sorry. So the Tonka truck. This Tonka truck, literally, you pulled it back. Does anybody know Tonka trucks? Where you pull them back like this and it goes, it's amazing. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. This Tonka truck was put through his paces by my son. It was thrown, it was dropped, it was picked up, and it was dropped. It was thrown down the stairs, and every time that Tonka truck got pulled back, it was incredible. I was like, wow. We went on holiday, and he dropped it from the balcony like behind us, and literally he took it to the next level, and it smashed down. The door fell off, a wheel fell off. We ran down because he loved it, and I thought, the Tonka truck's gone. It did it, and I was like, what? How the hell did that survive that? Put the wheel back on, door went back on, dented, scratched, still did. For 6 months, for a year, for 18 months, for 2 years. Then my daughter was born, and then my son went on to iPads and technology, and then my daughter took a fancy to it. And literally, She then put it through the paces. Girls and toys and trucks, she was determined to put this through everything. Threw it down the stairs, literally smashed into it, and that Tonka truck. And I thought, Mattel, who made that Tonka truck, knew that that truck was going to be put through its paces. I believe that God created us knowing we were going to go through some things. Every single one of you was going to go through something. And when you were created, God thought, he's going to go through bullying at school. He's going to go through seeing his mum be beaten. He may lose her father. I'm going to give this man courage. I'm going to give this man humility. She's going to go through something. She's going to be raped. And I'm going to make sure that she has the balls and the courage to rise. I believe every single one of us was given some kind of gifts to go through what you are meant to go through, in the same way that the Tonka truck, every single one of you keeps going. Because you were made for a really good reason. You are here to serve, you are here to lead, and you are here to love. There is a reason you're here today. And I want to say to you, be the Tonka that you were born to be, and just keep moving. One sec. Please bear with me, and I'd like you to open up your hearts and be with every word of this. This is the gift of the truth of being. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. And if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longings. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dreams, for your adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets square up to your moon. I want to know if you have been touched by the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with your pain and mine without moving to hide it, fade it, or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with the wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty, every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout into the silver of the moon, yes! It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what's needed to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know and how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the fire, the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside. When all else falls away, I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you can truly, truly like the company in which you keep in the empty moments. And with that, I promised you the kung fu of being. This is called the invitation. And on every single table, there is an envelope with other envelopes in that contains this invitation. It's an invitation to you to remember to stay on your own path, to live and love well, because that's why we're here. Thank you.
We have just had the first lesson in shit goes wrong and you deal with it. The fireworks didn't work.
Am I supposed to be here now?
We can just carry on if you want to roll with it.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
Let me say something. This man, watch him. He's running mics. He's enrolling people. He's at the Birmingham Children's Hospital. He's got his kids here. He's figuring out where I'm at, how I can do something, working with everyone. I want to introduce one of the most courageous, creative people who just gives and gives and gives. I don't even know I have the words to introduce him. But Matt, I'm honored by who you are.
Thank you. And if I'm really honest about this, you know, this event is one of my absolute biggest failures. I know. This started off as something that should have been in a different place, with a different number, in a different stage, with a different room. And it's still perfect. This subject of who you are being, who you are at any moment, who you can be, who you can create yourself to be, it rocketed my world to the point where, why doesn't everyone want it? We should put this out to even more people. It's not about Steve. It's not about a book. It's about who you are and who you can be. And I wanted to be that person to bring so much more to so many. For them, not for me. And yeah, you know, when this all went absolutely south, I was in a real place. I mean, I've been in a real place before. Some of you know my backstory, some of you don't. You know, 4 years ago, I was an absolute wreck, mental health, ruin, depression, anxiety, suicidal, on the verge of losing my wife. You know, everything had gone wrong. And this was pretty close to it again. To run this event, I actually had people send me a bill for half the value of my house saying, pay this, or lawyers are coming. And so I learned a lesson in how to say no. And it wasn't just saying no, it was a lesson in saying fuck no. It was like, if you really want to come after me that much, I have this much belief in this event that I will see you and I will absolutely take you for everything that you want just to run this event, to give some money away to charity and for all the people in the room. For 2 years, I'd been working on who I was, everything that you saw on the stage, you know, a creator of what I desire, brilliant and capable of creating anything, not in fear of the future, an authentic leader in every time and place. And this tested the shit out of me. I had to literally dig deep into everything I had told myself that I was and what I believed I was to go, is it true? Are you really? And yeah, it was quite a long process. You know, it was a few weeks of really sitting inside with it and being very quiet. And then, like someone reminded me, you forgot who you are. I had forgot who I was. All the stories that had built up about what it made me, how I looked to all you if I did this, how I'd look to everyone else if I cancelled it all down and just literally, you heard the music, burn it to the ground. If I burn this event to the ground, what does that make me? I'd got so many stories about it. And I burnt them to the ground too. So, yeah. One of the fun stories around this as well is the hats. You know, a lot of people have gone, what's that crack with all the hats here? It's like, what? Why? I want you to all take these hats away with you, okay? Yeah? Because believe me, I used to tell myself a few stories about who I was, and I used to wear it quite well, just like a hat. I think I even have the exact one here. I used to hide behind this. Yeah, I'm a cock. I knew that I'd get a giggle. I could hide behind who I really was. I could limit myself by just going, yeah, I'm a cock, so no one expects much of me. I just play small, I'm the joker, it's all good. If I dick around, I don't have to do anything serious. How many of you tell yourself that you're something like that to diminish what you can really do? Yeah, I did. Or I'm a wise ass. Shit, I think I'm a little bit of a wise ass now, okay. But yeah, I want you to all take these hats away as a reminder of who you're telling yourself you are in any moment. Because I used to hide behind this. It used to be a badge. It used to be like, you know, a badge of honor almost. And it used to protect me. How many of you hide behind that little protection racket? So I want you to take these hats away as a reminder for who are you telling the world you are on your head? What's the label that you're putting out there? Who are you being openly on show to the world? So take your hat, wear it. I think most of the people in the room have got like a goat hat. So if you all know what GOAT stands for, greatest of all time, and you can all be that. You can all be the greatest of any time. Apart from Caroline, she's gonna be a hugger. We like that. So yeah, part of this whole journey was learning to really stop hiding behind this. So yeah, I upgraded my hat. Make me a king. I'll take that for the day. Okay, so we talk about the butterfly effect, and this entire event is a series of butterfly effects. I can trace this back, you know, through the association that I've got with all the people now, all these amazing speakers that said yes to me in the first place, all the way back to the London event. You know, the London event for me, the best takeaway I had from it was Fiona Ross. Fiona Ross becoming my best friend gave me a lot of belief in that I knew I had someone behind me that would back me all the way to do this. The London event was born out of knowing the whole group and from what Eric Lofholm started and the Facebook group, which then was started from the book that Amy wrote about the Steve life. And yet in my own life before all this, I would have never have known the person that gave me the book if it wasn't for one person who made a commitment to me 4 years ago with no guarantee of any future. So where I was 4 years ago, there was one conversation in our kitchen when we were on the verge of everything going wrong. I'd been arrested. Life had gone upside down. I'd had massive issues with alcohol, and, you know, I was a mess. And I said, I'll sort this out. And this woman stood by me and made a commitment that said, I'm sticking with my commitment. I married you, I'm committed to you. And she believed in me when no one else kind of did. No one else thought I could ever do this. I didn't believe I could do it. Is there any coach in the room that kind of has to deal with people who believe in people more than they believe in themselves? Yeah. I had my own amazing coach. And her commitment is the butterfly effect to this. Without her commitment to me and her love and her forgiveness, what more is there? So, thank you, beautiful. So I'm done. You've seen enough of me. I've been up here like friggin' 4 times, I think, today. No, you don't need any more of me. All I'll ask is all of you, whatever you hear today, whatever that one little effect is, whatever that one little snippet of gold that you've heard, go and pay it forward in the world. Go out there. Who you can be different. Change yourself, change someone else's life, change your life. It doesn't matter. Just go and be who you are authentically, be good, and do good.
But what I'm going to ask you to do is come on a journey with me, and I'm calling it an exploration specifically for a reason, because words have meanings, right? This is not we're not going on a trip where you know the destination, and we know when we get there what it's going to be like. Trips are fun, you look forward to it. And exploration by definition means we don't even know if we'll get there, right? And even if we get there, the experience we have will be the experience we've had first time, and we can conceptually think about what that experience might be, but you experientially do not know what that experience is, right? So stay in that frame of exploration with me, and what I explore with you is this concept that radical commitment, I'm going to define radical commitment for you, is this incredible, deep superpower that everybody has access to and nobody fucking uses. Here's the hypothesis. I'm not telling you if it's true or it's not, but we're going to work through a handful of things, and I'm going to invite you to have an experience, not a concept, but an experience of where I'm taking you. So here's our hypothesis. You know, we're going to use a scientific method, and we're going to say radical commitment is a superpower that unlocks exponential results. Thanks, Karan. That's helpful. We're testing it, right? So hold that in your head. Next slide, please. So if we're going to test this hypothesis, we have to get very clear about the terms, right? And I want to spend, with your permission, I want to spend just a couple minutes on this slide, and I want to talk about, and these are my terms. You know, you can call them something different if you like, if it lands better. Relative commitment versus radical commitment. Everybody sitting in this room, without a doubt, knows what relative commitment is. There's people in the world out there who are not committed at all, kind of marginally committed. If you're sitting in this room and you're about this life, you guys are veterans of relative commitment. There's areas in your life where you are the top 5% of what you do. So let's take an example. All right, Karan, what does relative commitment look like? Make it more tangible for me. So let's take fitness as an example, right? So relative commitment is I'm going to get fit, and that requires me to like work out 5 or 6 times a week, and I'm going to have certain kind of a regimen for it, and then over like the next year I'm kind of going to get fit, and even if you're doing that, you're already in the top 5%. And within that commitment will be moments when that commitment is tested. I only worked out 4 times this week. I'm still doing pretty good, right? Like I just was on a flight. I'm a little tired. I know there's a gym in the building, but no one's gonna know, right? It's like, summer vacation's not for 2.5 more months, I'll just fast tomorrow. That's just one example. The fact that you worked out 4 days that week, and the fact that you, in fact, ate clean for 6 days a week, you are already, congratulations, you're the top 5%. Let's celebrate that. This is not about, I want to create a distinction, because the reason you're sitting in this room is not because you want to be the top 5%. There's certain endeavor in your life, I don't know what that is because it's personal to you, where you want to be the fucking best. Right? Like, you want to test yourself to be like, in this area of my life, in this one particular thing, like, how fucking good can I get? Is there anybody that feels that, or am I just a crazy one here? Right? And so radical commitment is kind of the what showed up for me. And let me give you an example of what radical commitment might look like. It's like, okay, let's use that same example. I am going to get down to, I'm making this up, 7% body fat. I'm going to do it in 90 days. I'm going to get all the help that I need. I don't have to do it alone. I'm going to have a program in place. And once I start that thing, either I'm going to fucking do it or I'm going to die. That sounds so like, calm down, Quran. Right? I ain't asking you to do it. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm explaining something to you so you can pick and choose and see, are there areas of your life that call for that kind of a commitment? Because let me be clear. The difference between uncommitted and relatively committed is nothing compared to the difference between relatively committed and radically committed. It's not even in the same fucking universe. It's not. And you just need to know that. And again, this is not, I'm not calling forth for all of us to, and here's the beauty of radical commitment. Next slide, please. You can know what you're radically committed to by your results, not by what you say your commitments are. It's right there. Business is not where you want it to be. Yeah, there's external factors. We all know that. But we're talking about controlling the controllables. Your health is not where you want it to be. You're not at your peak at whatever that one endeavor is. Right? Like, I want you to just sit with that for a moment, because like radical commitment will absolutely alter your universe, and it is really, really difficult. Next slide, please. So, I was toying with this idea for a while, and it finally crystallized for me. A radical commitment is a statement of what is. When you make a commitment that I'm making this up, $1 million next calendar year, right? Great, that commitment is lasting over a period of time. When you say I'm going to get fit over the next 90 days, that commitment's lasting a period of time. And so what radical commitment really is are these micro commitments that you make in every moment. If you say you want to lose 15, 20 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever the number is, and and I'll get to it tomorrow, or I can do part of it tomorrow, you might not even be alive tomorrow. You can't commit to something that you don't control. This is a nuance. I really want you to get it. Radical commitment is a statement of what is. What is only in this very present moment. That's it. You cannot commit to something tomorrow. And that's the beauty and the power of it. Because you don't have to get bogged down by I have this massive goal and here's all the things I need to do. No, you're going to maniacally commit to what is that one thing that you're committed to doing in this very moment. And then this very moment. And then fucking this very moment. And that is a completely different paradigm. Because why? Because we all already know, we're all highly enlightened human beings. We all know the only thing we ever have is the moment of now. Thank you, Eckhart Tolle. Where else are you going to make a commitment? Tomorrow? Good luck. Next slide, please. Okay, so just play with this for a moment, right? What if, just what if, everything you want in your life is just a radical commitment away? And I just told you that you literally control that radical commitment in this very moment. So literally, everything that it is that you need to alter your life to a point where you can't even recognize, you alter your life to a point where they would have to change your biography. You guys with me? Right? That is what where I'm trying to take you today. So, with that, next slide, please. Thank you for letting me set the stage. So, this is my dad. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. Going back to this frame that I set for you about these commitments, right? In that moment in time, when I heard this man who had 2 legs and 2 feet, just like I did, might have been a couple inches taller, maybe slightly better looking, right? But I saw him with a level of comfort commit to something that was mind-blowing for me. That was a moment of choice. That was a moment of, I could just shirk down from that. I'm going to do a bunch of research. I'll figure out if it's right. Maybe like, what does it cost? What is it, and I realize everybody's in different positions in their life, but I want you to stick with this concept. And I didn't even realize at the time what I was doing, but I just made a radical commitment in that moment in time to seize this opportunity to test myself, because I knew even if I never got to the place where I could finish it, the person I would become in the process of attempting to do something like this would change me. You guys follow me? Yeah? So anytime I take on ridiculous tasks, I have one cheerleader, which is my dad. He's never stopped me from doing anything ridiculous in my life ever. The rest of my family thinks I'm absolutely bananas. And so when I'm doing things that are going to be challenging, one of the things, and I learned this with my work for Steve, or with Steve rather, is we're not going to be done in 15 minutes, whatever that is. You guys can turn it off. It ain't happening. Was if you're doing something for yourself, you have access to a certain level of being. But when you do it in service to someone else, there's this greatness in you that you get access to, but you only get access to it if you're being in service. Like, it just is such a beautiful little concept. And the whole idea, if you'll do more for others than you'll do for yourself. So I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Like, I want to tie this to doing something special for my dad. My dad spent 22 years in the military. He was a special forces guy. He's one of my heroes, and he suffers from Parkinson's. And he used to be an adventurer, an athlete, and just was always out there just, moving through the world. And now, at that point in time, it was like, I had to take him to the bathroom. So I was like, I'm going to do this for him. So it was like, Dad, we're going to raise money for Parkinson's Foundation. Shit ton of money. And I'm going to go run this in your honor. And my dad was like, hell yes. The rest of my family is like, what are you doing? Knock it off. So this is just a reminder, right? Like, when you're thinking about these big ideas, I'm just sprinkling some thoughts in your subconscious. See if there's a way, when you find that one thing that you want to do that you're like, man, I don't even know if I can do it. See if you can find a way to do that in service of somebody else. You'll be fucking surprised at the reserves it opens up for you. Next slide. I sat with it, and I actually had a conversation with Steve about this, and I was like, man, and he brought me back to like, one of Steve's like, who do you need to be? Like, you think about the tactical stuff, like, who do you need to be in order for you to be able to do this? And it blurted out of my mouth, right? I was like, shit, like, I was 45 at the time, so a year and a half ago. I was like, I need to be the fittest 45-year-old I know. Like, no, I was like, in my head, I need to be one of the fittest 45-year-olds walking this fucking planet for me to even attempt to do that. He's like, well, go be that, right? So next slide. That's exactly what I did, right? So this is not to impress you, just Steve maybe, but it's guys, I'm a middle-aged private equity guy living in New York who's never run a fucking day in his life, right? And all I did was make a commitment, because it was important to me to do that for my father. It was important for me to raise money. It was important for me to test myself. And that micro commitment showed up in the next 6 months, whatever's required. I'll move to Denver. I'll get up at 5 o'clock. I'll run 15 miles. By the time I got to this place, this was about 6 weeks before I was getting ready to go on for the race. I was getting up in the mornings, going into the mountains at 8,000, 9,000 feet elevation, running 20 miles, coming back home, getting on my calls and running my 3 companies at like 9 a.m. Right? And imagine what that human being was feeling, right? And it was all these minor little commitments that happened, these radical commitments that happened every day. So I'm feeling good. I'm running 20 miles a day easy. I'm like, I got this. I don't know what they were talking about, right? Like, I got 6 weeks to go, 7 weeks to go. I'm gonna be golden. I can do this. Like, the confidence was really building. And then life just has a really beautiful way to give you the lessons that you need, right? You don't always get to pick what the lessons are. So we decide to get going. This is my buddy Ben. I want to introduce you to him in a minute. So I called Ben up. I'm like, dude, I got all clear. And and he knew I was pretty bummed about the whole thing. So we get to Cape Town the first day, and all we want to do is, I haven't run in 8 days. I have no idea what my leg's going to do. And we have a shakeout run. And a shakeout run is simply you go out for a couple of miles to see how your legs. I don't know if I can walk right now. I'm in fucking Cape Town with all my gear ready to go. So he's like, you sure about this? I'm like, yeah, we're doing it. Let's go for a shakeout run. Just, keep your pace down, I'll be fine. Half mile into the shakeout run, my knee is just throbbing pain. I'm literally like dragging my foot like this. I'm a mess emotionally, and I might even been like, a couple of tears might have come out. I'm like, what the fuck? I did all of this, and here I am, and now, I'm not gonna be able to do any of this. And this is why it is so important to have people in your life that fight for your greatness, not for your limitations. My buddy Ben, he goes, come here. Because he's on his phone on YouTube or something. He goes, you can walk, right? It's like, yeah, walking is fine. It's just like when my foot hits, there's a sharp pain, and he's like, okay, you can walk. He goes, I just Googled the world speed walking record. He's like, it's like 5 minutes and some seconds. He goes, you can speed walk 7-minute miles. And I was like, shit, I think I can. He goes, you want to give it a go? And they're like, don't go too far away from the plane. And we're running these back and forth routes. So that's, it just fully covered up. It's brutal. And I started kind of walking, speed walking, and kind of going through the process. And all of a sudden, like, the pain gets so bad around the 5-mile mark. Like, I'm getting ready to tap out. Like, it is brutal, right? Like, and I have a pretty high threshold for pain, and I'm kind of doing this. And as I'm doing this, at one point, my friend comes in Ben's coming from the other side, and he looks at me, and he can tell, like, he can just sense that I'm about to quit. I know I'm about to quit. I've done my part, right? I've gotten this far. And he just looks at me, and he goes, don't you fucking quit. And I'm about to tell him how bad it hurts, He goes, just not right now. You can quit in a little bit, just not right now. Just don't quit right now. Like, can you do that for me? Can you just not quit right now? And he literally was like, don't you fucking quit right now. And I don't know what it was, like some kind of voodoo magic that he did, right? Or like some part of my being woke up, and I was like, okay. And then in that moment, I had this realization of, next slide, please. I have another buddy who's a heavy-duty endurance athlete. It's a PDF, so that won't work either. But this guy is Jason. He runs 100-mile races all the time. And right before I went, I consulted with him. And I'm like, when you get to the place where your body's broken down and nothing is working and you are in pain, like, how do you still keep going? What do you access? Right? Like how do you do it? And he just looked at me and he goes, I just asked myself one question. It's like, if I had to do it or I would die, could I? Everything else is just a negotiation with yourself. Right? That's a radical commitment. Think about that. Like, not that you're going to die, but to get yourself in that place where you're like, hey, you know what? No, this is how they're going to get done. That woke something else up. And this is the part I really want to land on you guys, because we're talking about commitment, but I told you commitment is a superpower. So here's the superpower part of that commitment. There is a part of you that is so incredibly great. There's a part of you that you haven't even explored yet that is, if you knew who the fuck you were, and you will not get access to that part of you. You'll go to your grave not getting access to that part of you unless in some endeavor in your life, whatever that is for you, your family, your work, your health, something, until you make a radical commitment to just fucking go check it out one time. And what woke up inside of me, next slide, please. After that, it was just like, we're not fucking quitting. Like, they can take me up, I don't care. And every day the pain, this is me finishing the first one, next slide, I'm gonna hurry through the rest, thank you. But every day the pain got worse. So this was Antarctica, this was Cape Town. By the time I got to that one, that was in Perth. 3 of my toenails had come off. They were floating around in my shoe. So every time my foot would hit, it would just be this searing pain. By the time I got to here, this is Madrid. I had a stress fracture in my right leg that took 6 months to heal, right? This was 108 degrees in Fortaleza, Brazil, and that was Miami. But here's what I'm telling you this. Every time the pain got to a point where I was like, this is not bearable, it was only not bearable to that version of me. And when I sat in my commitment, something else woke up, and that could handle that pain like it was nothing. It was not even pain, it was sensation. It was just a sensation. You guys follow me? You guys with me? So like, that is the superpower that each one of you has, and you can choose where you want to apply it, but you will not have access to it. Absolutely will not have access to it until you find a way to change your definition of commitment. Keep commitment in areas of your life, but pick fucking one. Pick one thing in your life. Do it for 6 months, I implore you, and make this level of radical commitment, and fucking call me in 6 months. Because I want to talk to that person. Like, that's how powerful this is. So, next slide, please. So this is me. I'm done. Finally finished. Got a boot, stress fracture. Look at that perfectly wrapped little toe with no nails. And look at that smile on that dude's face, right? He would have done this 100 times over. Had nothing to do with the medals or the accolades. It's like, man, I got to witness a part of me. Like, all of us are here talking about being. All of us are sitting here talking about raising our consciousness. It's already in it. You already have it. There's no place to go get it. It's a superpower that's sitting in plain sight, and every fucking single person in this room has access to it. And all it takes is radical commitment in one area of your life, and you'll get access to that person. And when you get a hold of that person, he or she will show up in every area of your life. Because you can't undo it. You can't unsee it. So, next slide. So I told you, like, you know, be really, really careful when your mind tells you, like, next year. Wow. That's my dad. And every time, dude, that dude's still haunting me from over there. I did this for him, and I remember when sitting down with my family and having the conversation about, hey, let's just do it next year. Like, he passed away 6 months. And he was in so much pain with Parkinson's, and he had such limited mobility. I ran it for him, I gave him all the medals, and I would go visit him, and on the weekends, he'd be sitting outside in the lawn in some, you know, in sunshine, like, polishing the medals. These dumbass medals. You know what I mean? Like, it meant so much to him, right? And if I had just said, because of my lack of commitment, I'll do it fucking next year, I would have missed out on giving my father a gift that fucking I gave to myself because I get to keep this memory forever. You know, so, next slide, please. Damn you, Dad. That's my pops. You just never know, completely accidental 6 months later, you know, he's no longer there, and I'm just so grateful that I had the ability to just, you know, do it. And like, it's not a sob story, right? Like, this is, like, all of you guys are just giving up on opportunities because you're deferring for some other time because you don't think you have what it takes. And God damn it, man, you're sitting on it. Like, just go access it. Like, what the fuck are you waiting for? Every single one of you. Next slide. So, that was my hypothesis. And I wanted to take you on a journey. I wanted you to feel it here, not here. I see a few of you. I know it landed. So I'm